All right, here we go. Module 8, Leadership in the Learning Communities. So at this point, you should be finishing up Module 7, which is all about your professional growth, and the assignment there was to try social networks and keeping yourself connected as an educator. All right, so leadership in learning communities. How important are inclusive classrooms? There's two parts here, each with their own readings and each with their own discussion threads. Thank goodness they're not as long as the other ones, so don't worry. It's about how to make sure everyone's included in your class discussions. And the assignment for there is about teacher scruples, so a chance to try doing an interview question and a response to that. I personally like the third prompt that's there about how to engage students, but you can pick any of them that are there. The real key here is make sure you provide examples in your response. That's really what makes the difference in a lot of interview questions responses, is how detailed and specific is your example. So how do you engage students in classroom? Well, I use technology, that's great, but go further. What type of technology, what type of app are you going to use? What's a specific lesson you've already done? Give a rundown of that, getting that kind of specific. Alright, so just to jump into the course for a second here, just to bring you through the module a little bit. So this first part here gets you to download something called Building an Inclusive Classroom Worksheet. Alright, so it's a Word document that looks like this, and it's going to take you through all of the different lesson plan ideas that are on here. So this A to I are different kind of lesson plan ideas about how to make sure you're including everybody in your classroom. And it could be from sexual orientation to hard of hearing kind of disabilities to any kind of different nationalities and things like that going on in the classroom. So the different kind of ideas. A lot of them come from this resource here called the KIT, which was developed by the United Nations. It's a great big document, but it's got some fantastic ideas into it. Alright, so you filled out the worksheet by thinking of these two prompts. How did you feel when completing the activity? So if we were all in a classroom together, we would go through each activity, but you're just going to read the lesson plan. So how do you feel when you're reading it? Is it uncomfortable, or are you okay with the topic? And what can a teacher do? So what can you do with this activity? What kind of extension ideas do you have? So it's just a chance to kind of reflect on it. But you don't actually hand in this worksheet, alright? So don't spend hours on it. It's just something for you to be able to reflect on and record your notes. Okay, and then there's a PowerPoint there called Teacher Scruples, and scruples are like morality questions, or like what if kind of questions. What if this happened in your classroom? What would you do? So kind of read through the PowerPoint to get a sense of it. And then your discussion prompts are reflect on textbooks and documents and everything that's been created, and how do they make an effort to make sure everybody's kind of included and nothing's omitted, no one's omitted. And think about how this has happened over time, even taking something like Aboriginals, changing from Natives, changing from Indians, how have we had to keep up to date with our resources. When you're evaluating resources, are you making sure that it's an inclusive resource and no one's kind of excluded from a reading or a topic. So then after you do the worksheet, there's an opportunity here for you to reflect in the discussion post as well if you had any ideas or comments you wanted to make about any of those different activities. And then try making your own scruple question, and then hopefully people who are responding to your discussion posts will try and answer your scruple question to get some little interactivity going there. Right, part 2, super short. There's a reading here, who am I and where do I stand? It's kind of like a philosophy of teaching kind of post. And then an opportunity for you to think about guidelines that you would have for doing controversial issues in the classroom. All right, this is certainly going to come up in social studies. Things can get pretty heated in debates. How are you going to control that in a classroom? There's a teacher tip sheet here for you to think about. All right, again, don't post those guidelines, just a moment for you to reflect and understand, like, ooh, we're going to do some hot topics here. Things are going to get kind of heated. You know, how am I going to control it? How am I not going to get involved in it? Things like that. Think about that for a moment. And then you can kind of reflect about that as you post to this discussion post about, you know, social science curriculum is kind of a comment on our own society. It kind of changes over time. So how might discussion and debates of controversial issues be most effectively handled? All right, so what are you going to do to handle that over time? You know, like right now, the gay lesbian topic's a hot topic, inclusive with them. You know, how is that going to change over time? A social studies teacher 10 years ago would have handled a topic like that much differently than we do today. So how are you going to keep yourself up to date with these kinds of societal issues? Alright, and then go do assignment 9, which is that interview question, and then you're done module 8. Way to go. So I'll have another post for you for module 9 coming up next week. Take care.